Kind of Funny Live 2 is happening May 28th and 29th. It's a 2-day event. The first day is going to be a completely ridiculous stage show. What we have planned this year completely blows last year out of the water. And I don't even know how that's possible because we were really stupid last year, and this year's somehow even stupider. Day 2, it's going to be full day of meet and greets. We're hanging out with all of us. A bunch of Rooster Teeth people are there. Funhouse people are there. Achievement Hunter. It's going to be a grand old time. There's going to be some games to play. There's going to be signings. It's exciting. It's a really fun time. There's going to be exclusive merch. Oh yeah, there's definitely going to be exclusive merch. Go to kindoffunny.com/tickets to get your tickets today. There's a couple VIP tickets still available, so make sure if you want one of those, you act fast.
Colin,
yes.
What's your topic?
So I was having a conversation with someone recently. Sorry, my phone's blown. And the conversation was about politics in the games industry, but then it was like, well, the statement came up like, well, you're the most prominent conservative, the most prominent Republican in the games industry, right? And I was like, well, maybe, but what about? And then I like went in my mind. I'm like, there's no one else.
Nope.
Like that. Like, and I don't mean that with any disrespect or whatever. It's just like in the gravity well of like all of the major sites, and then like all of the offshoots of those sites that came. So like we're kind of an offshoot of IGN, not literally, but figuratively in the sense that like we come from that area. So like I'm not talking about people that were born necessarily on YouTube or in other spaces, but people that were born in like traditional games media or whatever. What was traditional games media? I realized that there's like no one else. And I started for the first time in years, I've been in this industry for a long time, started to really think about it. I'm like, isn't that weird? Like, isn't that strange? And I started to think about it. So I started like looking up statistics, and I'm like, there's got to be a statistical anomaly that explains this. And so I started like going into, I mean, this is very American centric, which I apologize to our foreign audience for.
Out, Pat.
It's just that like I can't account for that. And most of the people we deal with in terms of like our peers are actually American. So, So I went and I looked up some statistics just about political ideology in the United States, and I think these numbers will surprise people. Okay, so I found 3 polls.
Okay.
Gallup and USA Today did a poll in 2010 of Americans. 42% of Americans identify themselves as conservative. Only 20% identify themselves as liberal. And then everyone else is in the middle. And then Pew Research did another one in 2010. 40% of Americans consider themselves conservative, 22% liberal, and then 36% in the middle. And then in 2013, Gallup did another one, and the numbers are going down. Conservative, 34%. Liberal, 23%. Moderate, 38%. And you can go into typology and stuff like that, which is like how you identify yourself and like why you identify yourself as conservative or whatever. And so I don't really know where this is going other than to say, this topic, other than to say like, isn't that doesn't strike you guys as weird? It doesn't. It's like that like we are in this massive echo chamber where everyone agrees with each other except for me. No, that's like, am I like, can you guys think of anyone I'm missing? I don't know anyone. Greg, especially you. You're like the mayor of the video games industry.
Hey, how you doing, everybody?
Like, that's not weird to you. Like, when someone's out, my mind immediately went to like, yeah, maybe I'm the most prominent, but and then I'm like, I can't name one.
Yeah,
not fucking one.
To answer your question, is it weird that you're the most prominent? You said Republican in the beginning, and now it's swinging a little more conservative. No. It's not weird to me that you're the only one we can think of. I remember meeting you, and we were talking out at a bar one night, and I was like, it was like we'd known each other not a while, but we were still young in our relationship. I was like, man, you're the coolest Republican I've ever met, because no one identifies themselves as a Republican, because Republicans suck. They hate abortion, and they hate gays, and they hate, like, why would anyone want to identify themselves as that? And you were the first one where I was like, oh, fiscally conservative, socially liberal, yes. And I told you, and I've said it a million times, if you ran the party and that's what Republicans were, they'd win every election. That's a great idea. Keep the government out of my shit. You don't care what I do at my house. Drugs are legal. We're not going to spend more than we make. Perfect. But that's not what Republicans are. And I think
you're missing. I mean, that might be true, but you're missing, I think, the point that like in America, like a majority of, well, it's not a majority, but let's say many people, almost twice as many people identify as conservative over liberal, yet where are they? Yeah, you're like that's not weird to you? Like that there's none, like there's no parity at all? Like there's not even a few of them?
I think you're the most outspoken one of the lot. I think they're in the industry. I think they just don't vocalize it as much because like you got to think about it, there's probably not a lot of people that like the conservatives. I don't know, I'm Australian. And so I would say that you're probably the most outspoken. That's why you're the most notable, and you can't think of anyone else because no one else talks about it.
Yeah, that's kind of the thing I'm getting. The root cause of why I wanted to bring this up was not only the strangeness that there's just it's just an echo chamber. Like everyone just agrees with each other. Like can you go back to 2012 and figure out any other game journalist that was like, I want to vote for Mitt Romney?
Sure, but here's the point though, is the other thing of why you're the most prominent. It's because you say all that stuff. Why I couldn't tell you. I mean, you're correct. And do I know any other conservatives that are outspoken? No. But why would I? I wouldn't follow them on Twitter. I wouldn't want to listen to them.
I follow a bunch of liberals on Twitter.
Sure, but I'm saying I don't. Even when the liberals tweet about political stuff on Twitter, that's not what I'm following them for.
Sure.
If I go in and Kez is going off on policy or something, it's keep scrolling. I don't care. I want to know about what she thought of how her Dark Souls book is going or what she's playing that. And I think that's the other thing about it is that we're an industry where our passion and our careers are gaming. So we all talk about gaming, and that's what I mean, that's how I identify people more as what they play or what they do or what they cover more than I don't know. Like this is similar to being like, I always screw up her last name, but no, I'm gonna screw up her first name too. Fuck. Daniela from Now Polygon. You know who I'm talking about? Help me out. No.
With the R last name.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can't pronounce it. And she was like, she turned out.
It's a French name.
Yes, exactly. Sorry, I can't remember her last name. Or how to say it, I should say. But
Riandu or something like that.
Exactly. And it turned out, that during Paxomania, she came out as the boxer EMT, and it was like, she boxes because I've seen that on her Twitter, and she's an EMT, and I'm like, I didn't know that about her. You know what I mean? Like that's just the thing that like I don't know about her, but I know where she works and I know what she likes to play and I know this, that, and the other.
This is where the argument to me gets a little strange because a lot of games journalists and games media are super outspoken about politics, but none of them are outspoken about conservative politics.
See, that's the thing though. I think it's less of to me an issue of the games industry and more an issue of the entertainment industry, which the games industry is part of, right? You see this all the time in Hollywood, and a lot of people and people talk about it down there a lot, where everyone's liberal in LA, but that can't be possible, right? There are clearly people who would vote Republican or people who would side with the Republicans insofar as some of what they stand for, but everyone's afraid or just likes being caught up with the common voice of liberal Hollywood simply because that is the most popular voice down there. And so I think it's probably the same in the games industry, right? Which is seen as a very liberal. I mean, you're talking about art, and art is very liberal. There's no such thing as a conservative art form, right? Like there's no such thing as really a person who would, go out there and be like, I don't want to get down to that because I think I'm mixing my terms here a little bit, but most people that could be considered artists would be considered free and free thinking and free acting, and that kind of goes a little bit more along terms with liberal ideology. It's certainly that in Hollywood, and that's the same in the games industry. I would reckon to say there's a lot more people who are conservative in the games industry that just don't feel that they can actually voice that opinion for fear of being jumped on, like you get jumped on every single time you tweet everything.
Yeah, well, there are. I mean, I said it. There are prominent people that are conservative in the industry that I know they're conservative. They just don't say it. They tell me. But I just think I'm not even talking about people in the industry because I've actually never really met many people in the media side or like the YouTube coverage kind of side, whatever, that really do feel that way. And I it's just funny to me that. And I'm not trying to start a quarrel with anyone at all because it's like I don't really care. I like believe what you want to believe. It doesn't really matter to me. I just had never really stopped to think. I'm like, why am I the only one?
So when
that's just weird to me. Like,
but think about the themes and the ideology that most games deal with, right? It's more about liberal thinking than it is about conservative thinking, right? So you've got a whole industry that's but
what does that mean?
Basing a lot of their
I want to turn it to you. I'm sorry. What does it mean for you when you're talking about? You mean like talking about the Republican race and
just like presidential politics? Like you're not going to find, not that I support Trump, but you're not going to find anyone that supports Trump. Everyone loves Sanders or Clinton, or they talk about how like you read things from PR people, from like whoever, like how dumb the Republicans are, how stupid it is, a clown car, all these kinds of things. You see like really none of that except from me. And again, I'm talking like in the sphere of influence of these major sites and then their outshoots. I'm sure that there are plenty of people on YouTube that are conservative gamers. I'm sure there are plenty of people in all these other alcoves. I just am not familiar with them. I'm talking about like mainstream. We're not really mainstream anymore, but mainstream and then the offshoots of those mainstream things. I mean, I remember when we were at IGN, getting huge arguments with people. Like there was no one at that site like me. And there were a lot of us, like that was, and I never really stopped to think about it. Like I never actually stopped to think about that. Like I knew that I was like kind of on an island alone, but I never thought about like why that was weird. And then so I started to think about it more today when I was preparing for this, and I'm like, it has to do with age.
Yeah.
And it doesn't, because the statistics show that the average age of a gamer is 31 years old, and only 29% of gamers are under 18. So these are like more of like maybe Bernie Sanders centric, like very ideological, or really not ideological, idealist. And then 32% 18 to 35, and then 39% of gamers are 36 and over. Then there it is. I looked up this thing about, because I wanted to see political typologies, they shift. So
do.
like,
so they get closer to what it was like 30 or 32. That was the breaking point. People go more conservative.
and so only 18 to 29 year olds, only 4% of them consider themselves steadfast conservatives, and then business conservatives 6%, and then young outsiders, which are like moderate Republicans, which are like me, are 19%. And then you have like hard pressed skeptics, which are kind of like moderates, 9%, and then next generation left 19%, family and faith and family left 10%, solid liberal 16%, and then bystanders is actually 17%. So people that are just apathetic, which you see a lot with younger people. That by the time you're 65 or older, that goes down to 3%, and then steadfast conservatism raises to 21%. But actually, like young outsiders and business conservatives actually like shrink or stay the same. So like the conservative ideology becomes bigger, but not by much as you get older. If you go by these numbers, and these numbers I think come from Pew Research. So like that doesn't explain it away either.
Well, here's my question.
I really do think it's like ideologically consistent people hiring ideologically consistent people, making ideologically consistent people feel safe and like they can say something, and then like everything else is buried.
Go ahead.
My question from all that in the stats, even though, is like, what about when you said it's about our age, right? How old we are, our age demographic. I'm not talking about the numbers you're bringing up. I'm talking about, for our age demographic, you're the most politically active person I know. You're my most politically active peer. You always have been. You're dialed in. And so is what you're talking about now and what you're seeing now just, and stick with me because it's going to be a walk, but you'll get there, just another World Cup? Because now the election matters. Now everybody's suddenly talking about it like they've been fucking campaigning, stump speeching for Bernie or Hillary forever, right? But where were they when the regular elections come around?
No, that's a good point, and I've said it before, and insinuated it before. Like, out of all these people that like I've had quarrels with or just like that talk shit or whatever, none of them seem to know anything. Like most of them. So it's like just the way they talk and like how they. So I do agree with you. Like where they don't seem like super dialed in, and that's not an insult because they're liberal. It's because like they really aren't super engaged. But you see like you were bringing up, Nick, the movie industry, and I agree with you in the music industry. But there are very conservative alcoves in those.
Sure.
In those arenas, like country music, for instance, isn't all conservative, but that's a conservative and very mainstream, Southern genre of music that is certainly dominated by conservatives. And there are plenty of conservatives in Hollywood. Like there might not be like as many as there are liberals, but there are plenty of conservatives in Hollywood.
There are, but they're definitely the minority though.
Sure.
Like, or at least as far as the thought sharing is concerned, right? And it's because I was echoing Greg's sentiment. Like I think that a lot of people don't feel informed to make opinions because that's not their beat, especially specifically with games journalists, right? They don't cover politics; they cover games, right? So if you're asking for dissenting opinions on games, you're going to get a multitude of different decisions based or opinions based on every game. You're talking about politics. Politics is a very scary thing for people to have an opinion about, and so I think what a lot of people do is they default to whatever the most popular opinion is, and that tends to be liberal thinking when it comes to games journalists.
And to dial it back, I don't know. I think it's when exactly you're hitting on something right, because I do again think it comes down to generally that if you're looking at the Republican Party, they are the evil party. Mm-hmm. They are the ones who want you to not be gay, not do this, we are the Christian right. I have to think about it. Right? You know what I mean? Like and I'm not saying that's true, obviously. That's what I go back to. I would vote for your Republican Party every fucking time. But when you sit there and you do talk about it, that's how it nets out for at least my generation, or at least my point of view, maybe. I'll listen to that. And I think a lot of people are in that. And I think that's why you're talking about like why people come out of the woodwork or whatever. I think you're saying, I mean, again, I can't speak for you, I guess. But when I look at my Twitter feed and I see it's all these people rah-rah, I look at how terrible the Republican Party is, it's jumping on a trending hashtag. There's a debate going on right now and Trump's being crazy. Cruz is crazy. This is crazy that they're the choice. And I honestly think when you look at the Democratic Party this time around, it's a very similar conversation in terms of like, all right, well, they suck. Like the Republicans suck and are evil, but Democrats aren't. They're not evil. That's like the best you can say, right? Like Hillary's Hillary and Bernie has a bunch of plans that are socialist and maybe it couldn't work and he can't pay for them. But it's like, this is the election where I feel like everybody's fucked. Like everybody feels like they're fucked in this one. But the Republicans are still an easier punching bag. Republicans are still an easier punchline when you get to the end of it of what they're going to say or what they're going to do. Whereas, when the Democratic debate comes around, it's not a fucking deal. I don't really know what's happening till midway through. Drucker makes a joke. Like Drucker's super. Like that's, I guess, for me in the conversation. Again, now I blow by these tweets. I don't care. This is not why I follow people, right? But if you're asking me who the most active liberals are, I see, right? I'd be like Drucker, and then I see jokes from other people, but I don't count them. You know what I mean? Like I would say like you and Drucker are the only political voices I'm seeing from our echo chamber that I'm like, oh, these people are actually dialed in and super into it and know what's happening. And I'm sure there's more, but again, that's not standing out to me. And maybe I'm not following those people for that reason or da 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 da.
Sure, but I guess the bigger question, and again, I didn't know where this topic was going to go, which is kind of why I wanted to do it, but I just find it's not about whether it's right or wrong, the ideology, and it's not about like kind of the enclaves of people that are conservative or liberal that are outside of this sphere, which I'm sure there are many. Again, I want, you know, I reiterate that only because I am not familiar with like really about like with YouTube or with like these alternative
I'll tell you
press.
right now, be honest, I mean, I would say probably, well, YouTube's a little different though because there's so many different creators. But out of the ones that I see, most of them are liberal.
Right, but what I'm saying is like, so I'm not familiar with like the alternative press. Like I'm sure that there are games media on YouTube or and these smaller sites that are more conservative. I'm just really just talking about like what I'm exposed to, which is like the stuff that most people read, you know, like and I really am astonished that I just never thought about it, where I'm like, it's not even about like outward or inward. You know, I know a lot of people that have political leanings that we used to work with at IGN that are there and not there anymore. And you can pull all of them. They're all liberal, all of them. You know, maybe a few moderates, but like all liberal. And then there's just me. And like, that's to me that like the reason that like, I think frankly, my arguments are so sharp is because I have to constantly defend myself. And so like, and I'm not like trying to toot my own horn. It's just like I've been tempered in the fucking fires of this shit for this industry that is totally against me.
But here's
why is it against like my political leanings? And why aren't there more conservatives? And like why aren't they more comfortable being like me? Because I'm the one that says like fuck Donald Trump, fuck Ted Cruz, fuck Reince Priebus and all these guys. Like this party sucks. And like this isn't conservatism anymore. This is bigotry. This is wrong. This is racism. This is sexism. And like, but there are core conservative principles that I believe in. And I'm still the only one even saying that.
Yeah, but
You know,
but
I think
you
it's
just
because well, go ahead, you go.
I was going to say you just hit the nail right on the head, right? All those things you just listed are all the hot topics, the hot button topics of the internet, right? Not a lot of people want to really kind of get down to the nitty gritty of like our economy, but they do want to talk about abortion. They do want to talk about women's rights. They do want to talk about black rights or race relations. They want to talk about all of these incredibly important social issues, and those are the ones that everyone has a liberal opinion on.
And I feel like that's the big thing is that those opinions matter more to me than they do the conservative thing. That's what I've talked about before with you, right? Like I care way more about your stance on abortion than how you're going to fix the budget or the economy. Because guess what? It's always going to be broken. Granted, I'm super jaded, which I think a lot of
but why would you care?
too.
But why do you care about that? Because like that's
because I
already,
can't fathom.
that's already settled though. Well, that's the thing is like first of all, they're pro-life. There are more pro-life people than pro-choice people in the United States, and the that's settled. It's over.
But look at what we're seeing, right?
Arizona are like trying to make changes to that right now, in Texas.
Yeah, but the federal government had already has ruled on it. States have 10th Amendment rights to say that abortion's illegal.
It's not settled. Like they're making changes that would then go back to the Supreme Court and could overturn Roe v. Wade.
Well, how would they overturn Roe v. Wade? Like who's going to overturn Roe v. Wade?
Well, they're saying that in Arizona, I think it's Arizona. They're saying that they want people to have like the abortion clinics that will do abortions have to have like I think it was like they have to have a certain type of doctor, and most clinics don't have it, so they'll have to close. And that'll make it so in Arizona there's like going to be 2 clinics that'll be able to do abortions.
Yeah, I mean that happened in Texas. I think you're talking about Texas.
Texas.
That was the whole Wendy Williams, not Wendy Williams. Wendy. Fuck, what's her name? The chick that ran and lost for governor against Greg Abbott. Wendy Spencer, maybe something like that.
No, that's a character in the animated show.
Wendy Spencer.
Yeah, it is. That's correct. That is.
Wendy. I don't know. I'll figure it out. And we'll correct it next time. But the point I'm trying to make is like that, to me, like I'm sick of like quarreling over things that are all but settled. The states have the right to like do these things, I guess, and you don't have to live in those states and you don't have to support those policies. I don't support those policies. I am pro-choice. But like, but to me, it's like,
if you're going to talk, lean in your mic and turn on your mic.
To
no,
me,
I'm not against you talking though.
It's fine.
To me, what I'm saying is that like, and I'm surprised that like, this isn't, not that I really had any expectations for this topic. I'm just surprised that I'm hearing that like, you think it's normal that there might be 100 liberal people and 1 conservative person in a country where more people identify as conservative than liberal, in an industry that is getting older and older, which negates the whole like, well, when you're young, you're liberal, and when you're older, you're conservative. And it's like, well, the average age of a gamer is in his 30s now.
Yeah, but
and to me, I'm like, that's not strange to anyone.
But you're also talking games journalism, right? Which tends to skew fairly young as well. Like how many guys do you know that are writing for publications that are above the age of 36?
A few, but that's
A handful, right? All I'm
but
saying
there are
is, like,
none of them are like that's what I'm saying. Like I just feel like there is like actually a deep bias, and I never really thought about it. Like it was always obvious.
But that's the entertainment industry in general, man. That's just the way it is. And it's weird. I mean, there's the discrepancy there. There's a huge discrepancy. But I think, honestly, to go back to the idea of more social thinking is like, look at what's happened in the last 5 years. We've had gay marriage legalized, and for the most part,
which is great.
We're starting to legalize pot all around.
Also great.
States. That's great. So people, I think, are honestly responding to that and understanding that like that's what social media can be used for. That is how opinions can be shared, and that can actually move the needle. Whereas like no one really understands. Like that's quantifiable, right? Boom, we all got together, we all got behind this, and gay marriage is now legal. Colorado can now smoke themselves into oblivion and make a ton of money, and their economy can be fucking awesome, right? But not a lot of people can understand the tax code. Right. And that's not as easily quantifiable in 140 characters on Twitter as it is, to like legalize it. So I don't know. I feel like it's just a lot of people want to share more in those ideals because they're a little bit easier to grab a hold of. And I think they're also a little bit more easier to prove that you're a real human being by believing in pro-choice, by believing in gay rights.
Well, I mean, I believe in gay rights. I do as someone who's pro-choice, I do think that the pro-life argument is actually quite righteous. And like that there is you're not a human being because you believe that there's some sanctity to life.
I apologize for that comment.
I personally outbalance the woman who's carrying the baby, her rights over the embryo inside of her. Sure. But I do think that there's a righteous aspect of the pro-life argument. And in the media age or in the internet age, out of all of the social issues, the only thing that's gotten stronger is the pro-life argument. Everything else has actually gotten more liberal, except for pro-life has actually gotten more conservative. So like that movement's actually strong. And I'm not pro-life, but I know good people that are pro-life. They're not crazy, like the people that are bombing fucking clinics and stuff like that, but they believe that they're religious people, a lot of them, and they believe in that kind of stuff. And I respect that. I don't agree. But the point I'm trying to make is I'm actually more with Greg, where it's like, I actually think that the echo chamber has built itself up to make good and evil and good and bad and right and wrong and all this kind of stuff, where people are just afraid of saying how they really feel. And I just don't care, and that's the big difference, is that like, I can argue my point of view and kind of like tell you where I'm coming from, right, and not really attack you for the way you feel. And I don't really feel like I need to be attacked for the way I feel, even though I'm attacked every day for the way I feel. Like wearing the shirt is just going to trigger people because it's an Ayn Rand shirt, and 95% of them that attack her have never read that. They have no idea what the fuck the book's even about. They just know that that Atlas Shrugged is bad. And so they're like, well, and
that's the problem, right? It's like you take the time to actually educate yourself. Not a lot of people do. Right. And so, and a lot of people just want to go with whatever the common flow is just to keep the status quo. Like I am terrified to have, well, I'm not terrified, but I'm very cautious to voice different opinions than whatever the popular opinions are, because people will just have that mob mentality online and they'll rip you apart without even thinking. And that's Patrick, what's up?
Yeah, so your point is that you're the one that's been taking the hit for all your conservative views for years, and people have seen you cop shit, like a fuck tin of it, and as Nick's saying that so you're taking all the flack. So you're the one that's going to cop the flack, and they're afraid to get in front of that. They're afraid to. There's probably more conservatives in the gaming industry than you realize.
Yeah, I hope so.
And there's those people that are saying, I'm not going to. Colin does such a good job at representing us as a conservative that I don't see the point in me jumping in front of him, because A, I'm afraid to cop it, and B, that you're doing an awesome job at it, and what's the point in trying to get involved? What's the point in trying to get involved in something that I could possibly screw up? My choice, my views, yes, they're different to Colin's, but they're in line. But I could be completely wrong, and I could fuck it up, and I could ruin my career or anything in those situations.
It sucks, right? That you would ruin your career for a political point of view.
But it's a genuine fear for people.
No, it is, and we've seen it play out. And that was the thing. Is like part of the zeitgeist right now is like very, is a growing anti-political correctness kind of thing going on. But like I was writing about that like 5 or 6 years ago. You remember, like, and I was getting like, no one was talking about that shit. I remember people telling me political correctness literally doesn't exist. Like that doesn't exist when I was writing about it in 2010, 2011. Like the things you're saying, and I'd get attacked by all my peers and all this kind of stuff. And now it's like everywhere. Now everyone's talking about it. And I'm like, but where was everyone like, and still where's everyone about this? Like there's no one amongst you that supports Trump or Ted Cruz or John Kasich. There's no one that's like that is pro-life or can make an argument about why government should be smaller? Like none of you? Like and to me, I'm like, nah, there's something wrong here. There's something wrong. And I think that there's like, it's just, I feel like it's an intellectually dishonest medium. I feel like it's like it's an echo chamber. Like it is so fucking, it's so shallow and
See, I
easy
don't
to
know, man.
dissect.
I feel like maybe that just says something. Like maybe that just says like maybe they're not afraid of, you know, saying what they really feel or like having their own thoughts. Maybe that they just agree with that stuff, you know? And I think that I'm not that shocked by it, really. I mean, when there really is, when you're boiling it down to two sides, you know, you're going to fall on one or the other. And I do think that like, even if you don't make it good or evil, it's like, I feel like it's not going to fall 50-50, even though there's two sides. I think that it's, you know, there's the chance for it to be heavily one-sided. And like, I mean, I'm the type of person where I am not that up to date on all this stuff. This is not my beat. I do not know it that well. I have opinions on it. I have feelings about it. I'm never going to go toe to toe with you. I'm never even going to try to like argue with you about it. And it's hard to even like have an opinion on these shows about it because it's like I don't know what I'm talking about. I don't have the ability to talk to you about that. But it's the same thing. If I was arguing about something that I did know, you know, I'd be able to completely trounce you with it. You know this shit. So it's like you being the loud voice on the internet. It's like, yeah, people are going to talk shit to you and a lot of them are not going to have good arguments, but that's because you're saying something that upsets them, you know, whether or not they understand what it is. Like they don't agree. They know they don't agree. They can't tell you why. They can't tell you what they would do to change it, but they know they don't agree. And that's something that's funny. I was actually talking to Greg about this recently. Like I find myself with you specifically, there's a lot of times on every show, whether it's Gamescast or GOG or just in general, when we're just talking, where I'm like, man, I find myself arguing with Colin all the time, disagreeing with him all the time. And I'm like, am I doing that on purpose? Like, am I going out of my way to like be devil's advocate? And like, it took me some time to think about it, and like stop myself a couple times until I realized I was like, no, I just disagree with him on a lot of things. And there's nothing wrong with that. I just fundamentally see things differently than you in a lot of different ways. And I am nowhere near as well spoken as you. And I wish I was, you know, I really try to get better at being more well spoken, but you know, I do know what I feel, and I do know that what I feel a lot of the times is the antithesis of what you feel, but I can't explain it.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. I have no problem with people disagreeing with me. I guess the salient point that I wanted to kind of end with is like, I want more parity, because like what I'm wondering is with the numbers I was bringing up is like, that surprises me because there just are way more conservatives than there are liberals. And so like, is there a whole group of people out there that play games? I really don't think that video games, the act of playing video games is a conservative or a liberal thing. And I don't think the act of using technology in 2016 is a very conservative or liberal thing either. It's just ubiquitous. And I'm like, is there just a whole group of people that just feel like they're like totally alienated? Like that they don't feel like anyone's talking to them? Is that the reason that like I've weathered many storms and have become like somewhat prominent in speaking about those issues and speaking to a group of people that feel like no one else talks to them? And what disappoints me is not that I'm the only one, and necessarily, it's just that like, we're not sharpening each other's arguments or like keeping each other honest at all, because like everyone just agrees with each other. And that's really scary for me.
Here's what I want you to chew on, because I think it keeps coming back to the word echo chamber, right? And now this is not a great example, but give me time to flesh it out here for you, okay? It's similar to me in the way that you are the most prominent Islanders fan or the most prominent Jets fan in the video game industry. Maybe, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but let's just for right now roll.
I don't know if I know any other Islanders fans in the industry.
And so there's my point.
I don't think there are any. Yeah.
So there
are a lot, but
so that's my point though, right? You're talking about something in an echo chamber that doesn't not belong in, but people just don't care about or that doesn't matter to them, right? Like you're the only Jets fan in the video game echo chamber, and then
there's a few other Jets fans.
But you don't understand what I'm saying. The same thing with like the Republicans. Like when you start talking politics, I'm always like, oh, cool, Colin's well spoken, and then eventually I'm just like, cool, ready to move on or do something else. Like it's not what I care about. Just in the same way that's possible that's how it is for everybody. That in the video game echo chamber we care about video games, and obviously if like when that on the one where we did like the Game Over Greg show topic where we ranked our media, right? Like not. Obviously, I think on this table, actually, I might have been the only person who put video games at number one. Maybe you did. But like for everybody in the video game echo chamber, video games are one of the top slots for them, right? And so when that echo chamber is being used for talking about if Severed is as good as we say it is, or if IGN is as good as say it, and there's argument, and there's opinions, and there's people backing up with what they have, I think it's the same way where, I mean, I think maybe you're looking for the political echo chamber where it doesn't belong. Maybe you're looking for the Islanders echo chamber where it doesn't belong, right? Because you're not You're
I don't
not
under-
confused by there not being more Islanders fans, right? In the
No,
video game.
but that argument doesn't make any sense because what I'm saying is that it's not the industry isn't apolitical and then I'm a conservative. The industry
I
is
think
political.
Are you a
liberal.
libertarian? You used to be a libertarian.
I am. Libertarianism is a form of conservatism, and
Okay.
I am a conservative. I believe in small government, and like I am fundamentally conservative.
But like when you say conservative, people think Republican and they think Cruz and Trump, and you're like, doesn't anybody else in this support them? No, they don't. And
No
don't
one in
you-
this industry supports
You
those
don't
guys.
either, though, don't you? Isn't
No,
that what
I
you
don't.
always talk about?
I don't. But I'm saying that's not weird. There are millions and millions of people voting for them. No one in this industry. So like I'm sorry. Like Donald Trump just won a super liberal state, my home state. You know, like where is everyone? That's like the question I'm asking is like, no, I don't support them either. But I just think it's weird that there's just a total vacancy. I think that like we're kind of losing the argument because it's like, yeah, that would be true if the echo chamber was just apolitical, but it isn't. I've never seen an ancillary industry so politicized as games, ever. So it's like that to me is why it's so
but
confusing.
do you think it's genuine?
I think so. With some people, it's genuine. I think a lot of it's opportunism, and I think a lot of it's easy wins too because no one's challenged. You know, and that's so. What I'm saying is like I wish that there was more people that were arguing all the different sides because it would sharpen everyone's arguments and kind of get down to like the nitty gritty of what's true and what's false. Because I think the reason that I've been able to figure out about what I've been wrong about, what I've been right about, is because I've had to like really defend myself, and I'm sure that and sometimes I'm like, no, actually, my defense doesn't make any sense. Like what I'm saying actually is wrong, and you change your opinion. You're allowed to do that. That's fine with me. But I just thought that was weird. And I'm surprised that you guys don't find it more strange because we're all, especially the three of us, I think have been in the industry for a really long time. And Tim joined it a little later, but has known many people in the industry too. And I find that authentically weird. Like that there's an imbalance there, and where there should be maybe not 50-50 or maybe not 40-20 like it is in there, 40-40-20 with conservatives, moderates, and liberals, but not like 99-1. You know, like that's not weird. I don't know. Like that to me is a little strange. And so that was the thing I was bringing up. It's not necessarily about what the ideology or what you even believe, but just the sense that like there just seems to be a vacuum. And
I think if you were to somehow be able to pull the industry and compare them to that, you'd find apathy way bigger here.
well, and that's what I hear privately. And that's not so much from media as it is from developers. So, and it's not like I've talked to a million developers, but I've had people, devs, big and small, come up to me and thank me for that. But I've never dealt with that with media, and that's
But
specifically
that
what I'm
makes
talking
sense,
about.
right? Because devs are running a business, right? These people are engaged in that level of, profit making that most journalists don't necessarily have to trouble themselves with, right?
Sure.
And that makes sense. I mean, it's true.
No, I
like-
know it's just such
I didn't-
a nice way to put it.
I didn't mean it like that. I just mean like when you're paid to just write about things, like that's all you concern yourself with. When you're running a company, and if your product sucks, your company goes away. A tax break could be a very big thing, right? So usually most corporations are conservative because that's the nature of a corporation. Like you want to run in an economy that the government's not dipping into your pocket and taxing the shit out of you, so you can hire more people, so you can have a higher output, so you can make more money. That's the way it works. That's how businesses work.
Yeah, I think the answer, in my opinion, I think the answer is more simple. Like
Twitter's clearly blocking conservatives.
No, I don't
in the
think
game
that. I don't
industry.
think that at all. I think that
Conspiracy.
No, I think that it's more simple. I think that
conspiracy.
like-minded minds hire like-minded minds, hire like-minded minds, hire like-minded
That's
minds.
true, too.
And I think that I was
that's proven.
but it's like out of control.
Yeah.
It's not equivalent to the people that they're talking to. You know what I mean? Like it's just not.
But I mean, like, so I'm not following that just in the sense that no one ever asked me my political thoughts.
No, but they can feel it.
They can just feel it.
Yeah, in the balls.
Well, then, I mean,
And the big fat tap.
But you get it. What the argument is? No, you're political. No one asked you political feelings, but you're a liberal. I mean, you're obviously a liberal. And there's nothing wrong with being a liberal. Most of my family are liberals. Like I have no problem with liberalism. It's just not what I feel.
I would say Tim's a lot more libertarian than he is liberal. Tim's definitely. I mean,
he's from San Francisco, and I don't mean that as a pejorative. Like,
socially he's liberal, but he like behind the scenes conservative. He's
yeah. Well, now
really
he ons a
conservative.
business,
Yeah.
and so he understands how much the
I like
government
money.
sucks.
I like business.
So to me, it's like, so you might lean more libertarian, but you have social liberal views, which I do too. And it becomes more complicated to identify those things. But, I didn't see many people writing the kinds of articles I was writing or saying the kinds of things I was saying. But they seem so evident. And when I would write them, I'd be attacked by some people and I'd be attacked by a lot of people in the media, but I'd get a lot of support from people that were reading it. And to me, that said a lot where I'm like, do you just feel like no one's writing to you? Because games are very political. Art is political. Anyone who says they remove your politics and all this shit from art, you have no idea what you're talking about. You can't remove that kind of stuff from games. Like games are political. Even games that aren't political are political, and you can read into all sorts of kinds of things to them.
Well, it's the same thing like the Vita, though. Like, no one was writing about the Vita. You were. So, of course, the audience there is the people that want to hear you talk about the Vita. So, of course, they're going to love it and love you for it. You know,
Right,
it's like,
but and those people, to my point, needed someone to talk about the Vita, and so there was someone talking about the Vita. And what I realized was just like, my intention was never to become like a conservative like lightning rod ever in this industry.
No, but it happened.
But it did happen because there was just nothing else. And I'm like, there are way smarter people, way better writers, way like more eloquent thinkers than me that could do this. And I feel like they must be amongst us, but I just feel like there is a bias. And I just don't. And that's fine if there is a bias, but I got through it somehow. I don't know because
To be
I worked
fair,
hard.
also, but
and I was always political too.
Is there an analog on the other side for you? I mean, can you think of anyone that's as political in the games industry as you are?
I can think of many. I'm not going to name names. I don't want to talk about it.
Really? Okay. As political as like as
Yes.
left
As
wing as
outspoken?
you or
Yes.
as outspoken?
Yes,
I
I
can't
can.
think of
based
any.
on my Twitter, there's a couple people that are definitely seemingly the anti-Colin.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there are. I don't want to because it's not about individuals. I don't want to talk about individuals. It's not about them. It's like I don't want to call anyone out. It's not about any of that. Everyone's allowed to have their own opinion. It's not their fault necessarily that they were hired into an industry that's already super liberal, and so they're going to hire super liberals, and then they're going to hire super liberals. I mean, that's the way it goes. Because I know that my politics have been held against me in this industry or whatever. I mean, this goes back to another topic we already talked about, which I don't want to retread. I just thought it was interesting that I never thought about that particular angle, whether it's true or false. And I'm curious what people out there think about it. You can let us know in the comments, and I'm sure I'll hear from you on Twitter. But like, that's interesting to me. You know, like politics are ubiquitous in art. Games are ubiquitous in society. There's no evidence as far as I can tell that there's more liberals playing games than conservatives, and there are more moderates than both sides.
But then you're talking about different things, though, right? Because playing games, we're not talking about. We're talking about people who write about games. Like,
Right,
I'm
but
sure
then
the
we're talking about people that are
comments and
but then we're
tweet you
talking
all
about
the time.
people reading. What my walk is that people are then reading this content, but they're reading it all from similar, like just really from one side. And I'm curious about like, well, why? How did that happen? Like, there's definitely
Is there something you think in the art of being a writer you think that draws out the liberal people?
What do you think? It's just the locations?
Again, artists or
Like, you
stuff?
think of Games Media. Where is Games Media? It's all in San Francisco or
New York,
New York City, New York,
LA, if you're YouTube,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, that's it.
It could be, but that suggests the point is that wouldn't it even make more sense if it was 90-10? You can't even say that. That to me is so. That's the only point I'm trying to make.
Yeah, I think it goes back to the fact that art is generally progressive, right? Isn't art seen as a progressive medium, and that engenders that kind of thinking for the most part?
That's a possible explanation for it. I don't know. I just thought it was interesting. This is basically just an observation. I don't know whether people agree with it or disagree with it or what the reasons are or whether it even really exists, but I think it's evident.
I just think it's
that it
one of those
does.
things where you always talk about hopefully this breaks the Republican Party, this presidential election, right?
Yeah, I
And
almost
we
want Trump to win
And we come back with
the nomination.
We come back with another party that is exactly what you're describing, right? And that's when I'm all in. When there's a party that is what we're talking about, socially liberal, financially conservative, there it is. Why does nobody identify themselves as a conservative? Because the conservatives attach to Republicans, and Republicans seem batshit crazy. And I think even you are saying you're not going to vote for any of these candidates, or you don't support these candidates.
No, I wouldn't. I'm not gonna. I don't know.
It's
what
just
I'm
like
gonna do in
it's
the
this
primary.
weird dedication to a party, I guess, that I don't see why people would have that dedication to that party. That's why I'm registered independent, right? Because I want to see every time who the best person for the job is. I'm with you right there. Like I'm saying, like if that party comes around and that's what they're doing and that's what they're
Well, I'm
selling,
gonna probably have to do it
and
myself.
if big old Mitt Romney
you
gets
need a
back in the
Republican
race,
Party 4.5. That'll be nice.
So anyway, I was curious. That's very good. I was just curious what you guys think about. I'm sorry if I ranted. Well, I don't think it was a rant. I think it was pretty coherent. But something I was just thinking about very recently that I was surprised I just never thought about before. And I'm curious what people think about that imbalance if it really exists. And I do think that part of it must be mitigated by alternative press, alternative YouTube, alternative sources of information that do not come from this, what is really a dying core of video game press anyway. But to me, it's like that still was fascinating that I never really, I don't know, like sometimes I'm astonished by the really obvious shit I never thought about. And I wanted to bring that up as one of my conversations. So I hope people enjoyed it, and you definitely let me know what you think of it.
If you didn't know, ladies and gentlemen, this has been the Game Over Greggy Show. Each and every week, 4, sometimes 5 best friends gather on this table. Each bring a random topic of discussion for your amusement. If you like that, head over to patreon.com/kindafunny and toss us a few bucks to get every episode early, along with a bunch of exclusive content and perks. If you have no bucks to toss, no big deal. Head over to youtube.com/kindafunny, where we break the show up topic by topic, day by day, until the entire thing posts as one big video each and every Friday, and MP3, of course, around the world.
Yeah, you should definitely go to patreon.com/kindafunny, just like Adam Garcia did, our Patreon producer for this month. He's a great
there's
guy.
nothing goes up. Forget. No, put your hands down. Nothing goes up for the Patreon
nothing.
producer.
Okay.
Sorry. I apologize.
Anyway, shout out to Adam Garcia. He's freaking awesome. He made the circle logo shirt. The Kind of Funny shirt you can find on kindoffunny.com/store.
It looks like
in
a
the
smiley.
beautiful blue. I love it.
It is
I
really
love
nice.
it
You can
so
go follow
much.
him at Adam M. Garcia on Twitter and Instagram.
And shout out to Anthony Carboni, who turned me onto those armpit pads, those diapers. So now I can wear the blue shirt and not have armpit sweat stains.
Craig Miller.
I'll break it in
everybody.
tomorrow. If you watch the Colin and Greg
It
live
makes
from
sense for your
weeks
panties
ago.
also.
Pat, you were fucking awesome.
Yeah,
I like
thank
you.
you.
Thank you
Yeah,
for
you're
all
right.
your treats.
No,
Thank
you're
you
welcome. Thanks for having me.
Do you
This
want
guy.
Do you want people to follow you on Twitter or anything?
That's right. I don't use Twitter.
Okay, don't follow him on
Yeah,
Twitter. Don't
no,
do
Don't
anything.
worry about that.
Nah.
Happy marriage and everything.
Yeah, no. Cheers.
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 Until next time. Cheers.